Welcome to Tennis Spin, where we put our spin on your tennis. Today, a bunch of you asked me about what this is and how to get it, and it's called a power pad. I know, it's a leather lace, but that's what you're supposed to use. Stay tuned. Sky, great playing today, man.
Thanks. Good hitting.
Oh, thank you.
My arm doesn't feel right.
Uh-oh. Interesting. I got something. Hang on. See? I don't feel a thing.
Wow. My arm doesn't feel a thing. Feels great.
See? I told you.
All right, Harry. One more shot. I'm going to go real big. This is great. Yeah.
All right, guys. So Roger Federer, Jannik Sinner are two of the players that actually use a power pad. Now, but what does a power pad really do? I mean, you don't see Fed using a dampener, right? And I feel like when I was researching the earliest dampeners, power pads came up on wooden rackets. So that means these must dampen some kind of vibration. I know it's probably going to dampen a hair of shock, but I'm actually going to go to my sound expert, Patrick over here, who uses the Fed racket, modded up, and he wanted it just like Fed's before, with the power pads in there. Same string setup too. So let's go out with Patrick. I'm going to hit with it too. We're going to go with pad and without pad, and then talk about it afterwards. Stay tuned. All right, so we just got off the court. Since you're used to, with, and then you have one without, let me start with me. I started with, and it was interesting. I definitely felt the strings. I definitely felt a little bit of ringing. I felt the ball absorb. And I felt the ball release, and then right as it released, it went ying, like that, right? And I was like, okay, well, I still feel it, so it's not negating everything out like a RTP dampener, let's say. So I was like, okay, this is interesting. I mean, I could probably live with it, I thought I wouldn't notice anything without it. So When I went to the one without the power pads, it was a little interesting. It went whop, bing, like that, just like a hair longer instead of a wing.
Exactly.
It went. It's like a T, like this, right, versus yeah.
Right. No, exactly. If you put a mic to these on a hit, and I tried to, but I couldn't. I even set up like sheets in a room and I tried to hit it to get different sounds. I couldn't pick it up exactly. But if you were to put a sound wave to it, mm-hmm, with the power pads, you'll see that the sound wave goes like this when it ends, mm-hmm, whereas without it, it kind of just fades out. So it's a normal fade out to a pinpoint, whereas this one, at the end, it just rounds down. So that's what you're feeling and hearing, is that little round off of, like if you yelled in a canyon and the echo keeps going.
Right.
At some point, that makes it round off instead of dissipate.
I see.
Right. So that's the actual sound wave happening, and then, so I couldn't feel the difference, but I can hear that difference, but it's on miss hits where I hear it the most.
Oh,
which is probably 8 out of 10 balls for me. Right. So that ping, when you hit something flush, it just sounds flush.
Right.
On both rackets, I couldn't feel a difference.
Right.
But when I miss hit, that's where that ring, this has a more thump.
Well, that makes sense, because if you hit the string bed, right, it's going to gravitate into right here, where they're holding the strings. If you mishit it, it's probably coming around the frame, and then it's coming this way to vibrate the whole thing.
Yeah. Because like I remember, I don't know if it was in Fed's book or probably countless interviews, he talked about it, because he knows that, the power pads really don't do anything to his new rackets. Because, like you said, they do dampen, but they don't dampen as much as a dampener. But when I tried to do history on it, people started doing this on the wood racket because the hole had an angle.
Right, it was a sharp angle.
And it would cut the strings. So this was keeping the strings longevity a little longer. And I think Fed grew up using them, and it's a psychological thing.
Right.
So he just kept them. So that's, I think, in my head now, not that I want to try to be Fed. Everyone wants to try to be like Fed. But in my head, like on the mishits, I hear that. So I think, is it a confidence thing? Because this has that nice thump. And that has the ring out. So maybe it's like, I prefer this just because in my mishits they sound better, which maybe psychologically makes me feel like I'm playing better. And,
right.
Yeah, but I couldn't really tell a difference other than the sound. Like the vibration didn't change for me as much for you, but the sensitivity.
So let's talk about the name of it. They call them power pads. Is there more power in the pad?
I don't know. I mean, when I read about that back with the wooden rackets, right, it was more saving the string, making the string last longer, but would it allow them to string it tighter without breaking? But then that goes against new technology where looser strings are more power.
Right.
But maybe back in the day when they just had old school gut, you string them tighter. Are you going to get more power? No. Maybe more control. I don't know.
Well, I mean, if you think about it this way, since this is soft, right? And if you hit the string, it's going to push up against the power, right? Like a lever, and then it's going to release back. So maybe there's a little bit of power in the pad.
Yeah, if you think about it, back in the day, if they're using gut on a wooden racket, that's giving the strings just a little bit more squeeze. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, maybe.
Right?
Maybe.
Right,
okay.
Yeah,
so maybe that's where
exactly. All right. Well, so I guess if you want to feel it or maybe not feel it as much, the power pads do something. Or maybe it's like what Patrick says, it's a psychological thing. But either way, are you with or without if you had to choose?
What's interesting is if you use power pads with poly.
Oh.
Like, because me, like with the Confidential, I don't like that sound, that ting sound.
Right.
I wonder if that would knock it down a little bit.
Oh, this is true. Yeah.
I mean,
this is pretty noisy the way it is anyways.
That's I'm hitting the frame all the time.
No, I mean, even because you do have poly in here and you do have gut.
Yeah, that's
and it
true.
does resonate.
Right.
So.
But I'm just wondering if it does the same thing to poly. I guess it would in sound-wise. I don't know about your dampening feel. Right.
But guys, you guys asked about power pads, so we're answering it for you. Let us know if you've experienced it. I know a lot of you have asked me exactly what it is. This is a 3/4 of an inch, 3/4 wide, okay, by I believe 1/2 inch or 1/4 of an inch thick. I think I don't know. I'll try to find a link to this on the bottom, but it is basically a leather strap, When I first started buying these, they were about $8 or $9. I think they're like 15 now, but you get a lot of it. It's like 6 feet worth of it. So I'll try to put a link on the bottom of it and show you where I got these, because everybody's asking me where I get these power pads from. All right, guys, let us know your experience with it, and tell us if you liked it or it made no difference. All right, Patrick, thank you so much. Guys, thank you for watching Tennis Spin, where we put our spin on your tennis.